In a world where faith and technology collide, the line between prophecy and persecution has never been thinner. The year is 2025, and humanity stands at a crossroads that ancient scribes once foresaw, but few truly understood. Dr. Sarah Chen never imagined she would become the keeper of humanity's most dangerous secret, yet here she was, her fingers tracing the delicate edges of scrolls that could change everything. The mandatory implementation of digital prophecy chips was supposed to bring clarity to religious interpretation, offering standardized spiritual guidance through neural interfaces. But Sarah knew better. As one of the world's leading biblical scholars, she had spent years studying ancient texts, analyzing patterns that others had overlooked. The truth she discovered in those weathered scrolls hidden beneath Jerusalem's old city would shake the foundations of both faith and modern society. The gentle hum of surveillance drones outside her window reminded Sarah that time was running out. The government's Religious Compliance Division had already flagged her for refusing the chip implementation 3 times. Her credentials at the Biblical Research Institute were hanging by a thread. But she couldn't stop now, not when she was so close to understanding the pattern that connected a series of seemingly random global events to prophecies written millennia ago. It started with the unprecedented solar storms that had disrupted global communications last month. While others saw chaos, Sarah recognized the celestial signs described in ancient Aramaic texts. The patterns matched perfectly with fragments she had discovered, describing a time when the sun's breath would scorch the airways of man's speaking. But this was just the beginning. Through encrypted channels, Sarah had connected with others who shared her suspicions. Marcus, a former quantum computing engineer who had also rejected the chip, helped her establish a secure network of believers. Rachel, an archaeological linguist, worked tirelessly to decode the cryptic symbolism in the scrolls. Together, they formed the core of what would become known as the Remnant, those who chose ancient wisdom over modern control. The network grew carefully, deliberately, each new member vetted through a series of tests designed to protect their growing understanding of what was really happening. They met in abandoned libraries and forgotten places of worship, sharing discoveries that painted an increasingly alarming picture of humanity's immediate future. The prophecies spoke of a time when technology would become indistinguishable from truth, when faith would be measured in megabytes rather than devotion. Sarah's apartment became their primary research hub, its walls covered in complex charts linking current events to ancient predictions. A massive earthquake in the Pacific Rim, precisely where the scrolls had indicated. A mysterious atmospheric phenomenon that turned skies purple over major cities, matching descriptions from texts dating back to the Dead Sea Scrolls. The evidence was becoming impossible to ignore, yet increasingly dangerous to possess. The breakthrough came on a rain-soaked evening when Sarah decoded a series of numerical sequences hidden within the text. They weren't just predictions, they were warnings. The digital prophecy chips weren't simply tools for spiritual guidance. They were part of a system designed to suppress humanity's ability to recognize the true signs of the end times. Each implant subtly altered its host's perception, making them unable to connect the dots that Sarah and her group had discovered. As their understanding grew, so did the danger. Government agents began appearing at university functions, asking questions about Sarah's research. Surveillance increased around known members of the Remnant. Marcus disappeared for 3 days, returning with bruises he wouldn't discuss and a warning that their time was growing short. The decision to go public weighed heavily on Sarah. The scrolls had revealed a pattern suggesting that a major event was approaching, something that would make the previous signs seem minor in comparison, but exposure would mean sacrifice. The network they'd built, the people they'd protected, everything would be at risk. Rachel discovered that the chips contained coding that mirrored ancient numerical sequences that appeared in prophecies about mass deception. It wasn't just control they were fighting, it was a deliberately engineered blindness to the very events that humanity needed to recognize. The chips were ensuring that when the final signs appeared, most of the world would be neurologically incapable of seeing them. Underground meetings grew larger despite the risks. People were beginning to notice that chip recipients showed marked changes in their ability to process information about certain events. Family members described their chipped relatives as being unable to acknowledge obvious connections between current events and biblical prophecies. It was as if part of their consciousness had been partitioned off, sealed away from critical thought about anything relating to end times prophecy. Sarah's team worked tirelessly to document everything, creating multiple copies of their findings and distributing them through secure channels. They developed a system to help people recognize whether they were being influenced by the chips, teaching them to look for specific blind spots in their thinking. The resistance grew stronger, but so did the opposition. The Religious Compliance Division launched a massive campaign promoting the benefits of the chip program. Celebrity endorsements flooded the media, promising enhanced spiritual awareness and deeper connection to divine wisdom. Those who refused were increasingly marginalized, losing jobs, access to services, and social standing. Then came the moment Sarah had been both expecting and dreading. While examining newly discovered scroll fragments, she found references to a celestial event that would serve as the final warning before everything changed. The description matched an astronomical phenomenon that scientists had been tracking, a previously unknown comet on a collision course with Earth's magnetic field. Official channels downplayed the comet's significance, but Sarah's research revealed its approach aligned perfectly with prophetic timelines. The choice became clear. She could stay hidden, protecting her network, but allowing millions to remain blind to what was coming, or she could risk everything to wake up a world that was rapidly running out of time. The decision was made for her when Rachel decoded the final piece of the prophecy. The text didn't just predict the events. It specified that knowledge of the truth had to be shared before the comet reached its nearest approach to Earth. Keeping the information hidden would make them complicit in the very deception they were fighting against. Sarah gathered the core members of the remnant for one last secure meeting. They developed a plan to broadcast their findings globally, using a network of independent communication systems that Marcus had designed. It would trigger an immediate response from authorities, but the truth would be out there for those still capable of seeing it. As they prepared for their revelation, Sarah received an encrypted message that changed everything. A contact within the Religious Compliance Division confirmed their worst fears. The next phase of the chip program was ready to launch. It wouldn't just suppress recognition of prophetic fulfillment, it would completely rewrite recipients' understanding of religious text itself. Time was running out. The comet would reach its critical position in less than 48 hours. Sarah and her team worked frantically to compile their evidence, knowing that each minute brought them closer to both discovery and destiny. They had tracked the 9 major prophetic events that had already occurred, each one dismissed or misinterpreted by mainstream sources. The comet would be number 10, the number of completion in biblical numerology. The final hours were a blur of activity. Rachel worked to synthesize their linguistic evidence, proving how the chip's programming specifically targeted areas of the brain involved in prophetic understanding. Marcus prepared their broadcast system, designing it to bypass standard communications channels. Sarah gathered the original scrolls, documenting everything for posterity. As the comet began its final approach, Sarah stood in her apartment one last time, looking at the web of connections they had mapped out. Everything had led to this moment. The choice between self-preservation and truth, between comfort and courage, between compliance and conviction. She thought about all the people who had risked everything to preserve this knowledge, all the way back to the ancient scribes who had first recorded these warnings. The time had come. Sarah sent the signal to initiate their broadcasts. Across the globe, secure servers activated, beginning the transmission of their findings. As sirens began to wail in the distance, she watched the comet's light grow brighter through her window. The truth was out now, accessible to anyone still capable of recognizing it. Whether humanity would choose to see it was no longer in her hands. The ancients had written that in the end, truth would become the most dangerous commodity on Earth. As Sarah heard the sound of boots on the stairs, she finally understood why. In a world built on controlled perception, the most radical act was simply to see clearly. The choice between conformity and enlightenment had always been humanity's greatest test. Now, as the final prophecy unfolded, that choice would determine not just individual destinies, but the future of human consciousness itself. The door burst open, but Sarah stood calmly, watching the comet's light paint the sky in prophesied colors. She had chosen truth over safety, wisdom over compliance, and whatever came next, she knew that somewhere others would see it too. The end times hadn't come as a sudden catastrophe, but as a quiet war for the human mind. And in this moment, watching the agents approach with their chip implantation kit, Sarah smiled, knowing that the real battle was only just beginning. In the heart of Jerusalem's ancient limestone caverns, where shadows dance on weathered walls that have witnessed millennia of history, an extraordinary discovery is about to shake the foundations of our understanding of prophecy in modern times. The year is 2025, and what began as a routine archaeological survey has transformed into something far more profound, something that bridges the ancient world with our digital age in ways that defy explanation. Dr. Sarah Chen never expected to find herself at the center of a discovery that would connect biblical prophecies to the headlines dominating today's news feeds. The scroll lay before her, its weathered parchment telling a story that transcends time itself. As she carefully unrolled the delicate manuscript, her trained eyes noticed something unusual. This wasn't just another Dead Sea Scroll. The text contained information that seemed impossible for its age, describing with haunting precision the very world we live in today. The laboratory at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem buzzed with activity as experts from various fields gathered to examine the remarkable find. Carbon dating confirmed what seemed implausible. The scroll was indeed ancient, dating back to the 1st century. Yet its contents spoke of things that its writers couldn't possibly have known. The text described a world where currency exists without physical form, where machines think like humans, and where humanity is connected through an invisible web that spans the globe. As Dr. Chen collaborated with biblical scholars and modern technology experts, the parallels became increasingly difficult to ignore. The scroll's predictions aligned with current events in ways that sent shivers through the academic community. It spoke of a time when nations would be linked through digital systems, describing what we now know as blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. The ancient text painted a picture of a world where traditional money would give way to a new system, one that would require every person to participate in a global economic network. More unsettling were the scroll's descriptions of artificial intelligence. In metaphorical language that eerily matched our present reality, it described minds of metal and light that would one day rival human intelligence. The text spoke of these artificial minds becoming intertwined with daily life, making decisions that would affect millions. Today's headlines about AI integration in healthcare, finance and governance seem to leap straight from the scroll's ancient pages. The team's cryptographers and linguistic experts worked tirelessly to decipher the document's more complex passages. They discovered references to what appeared to be a global identification system, one that would merge physical and digital identity. The scroll warned of a time when this system would become mandatory for all commercial transactions, drawing immediate parallels to current discussions about digital ID initiatives and cryptocurrency regulations. As news of the discovery spread, religious scholars began pointing out connections to traditional interpretations of biblical end times prophecies. The Book of Revelation's description of the mark of the beast suddenly seemed less allegorical and more literal in light of modern digital identity systems. The scroll appeared to bridge the gap between ancient warnings and contemporary technological developments, suggesting that the prophets of old had glimpsed our digital age through some divine window. The implications grew more profound as researchers uncovered predictions about global alliances that perfectly matched current geopolitical shifts. The scroll described a world where traditional power structures would be upended, where new coalitions would form among nations that historically stood apart. In 2025, as the world witnessed unprecedented diplomatic realignments and economic partnerships, the ancient text's accuracy became impossible to dismiss. Dr. Chen's team discovered passages describing environmental changes that mirrored current climate challenges. The document spoke of seasons becoming unpredictable, of seas rising, and of ancient diseases emerging from melting ice, events that were making headlines with increasing frequency. The scroll's authors had somehow foreseen the environmental crisis that would face humanity in the 21st century. Perhaps most intriguing were the scroll's predictions about social changes. It described a time when traditional values would be challenged, when society would become increasingly divided, and when truth itself would become a matter of debate. The parallel to our current era of fake news and competing narratives was unmistakable. The ancient texts seem to have anticipated the social media age and its impact on human discourse. As researchers delved deeper into the manuscript, they found references to specific technological developments that seemed impossible for ancient writers to have known. The scroll described devices that would allow instant communication across vast distances, machines that could see inside the human body, and vehicles that would travel beyond Earth's atmosphere. Each prediction aligned with innovations that had either recently emerged or were on the verge of breakthrough. The document's accuracy regarding current events led to intense speculation about its remaining unfulfilled prophecies. Of particular interest was a series of predictions about events that seemed to be unfolding in real time. The scroll spoke of a great economic transformation that would begin in the east and spread westward, precisely matching the current shift in global financial power. It detailed the rise of digital currency systems that would eventually replace traditional banking, a process that was actively occurring. Security experts noted with concern the scroll's warnings about vulnerable digital systems and the potential for widespread disruption. The ancient text describes scenarios that paralleled modern cybersecurity threats, including the potential for critical infrastructure failures and the manipulation of essential services. These passages gained new significance as reports of sophisticated cyber attacks increased globally. The scroll's descriptions of social control mechanisms through technology drew particular attention. It warned of a time when personal privacy would become obsolete, when every transaction and movement could be monitored and recorded. The parallel to current debates about surveillance technology and digital privacy rights was striking. The manuscript seemed to caution against the voluntary surrender of personal freedoms in exchange for convenience and security. As the research team worked to translate the final sections of the scroll, they encountered a passage that made them question everything they thought they knew about prophecy and time itself. The text contained a specific prediction, complete with what appeared to be a date corresponding to exactly 1 month from the present day. The nature of this prophecy was both precise and alarming, describing events that would fundamentally alter human society. The discovery sparked intense debate within academic circles. Some scholars argued that the scroll's accuracy regarding current events couldn't be dismissed as coincidence, while others searched for rational explanations for its predictive power. The scientific community struggled to reconcile the manuscript's age with its seemingly impossible knowledge of future events. Religious leaders from various faiths began to weigh in on the significance of the discovery. Many saw it as confirmation of their theological interpretations, while others warned against rushed judgments. The scroll's existence challenged both secular and religious worldviews, suggesting a connection between ancient wisdom and modern reality that defied simple explanation. As the date of the final prophecy approached, global attention focused on Jerusalem. News organizations maintained constant coverage of the research facility where Dr. Chen and her team worked to understand the scroll's last prediction. Social media buzzed with theories and speculation, while financial markets showed increasing volatility in response to the uncertainty. The scroll's influence extended beyond academic and religious circles, affecting policy decisions and strategic planning at the highest levels of government. World leaders sought briefings on the document's contents, particularly regarding its predictions about economic systems and global security. The possibility that ancient prophets had accurately forecasted our present reality forced a re-evaluation of long-held assumptions about history, time, and human knowledge. The manuscript's warnings about technological dependence and social control mechanisms sparked a global conversation about the direction of human civilization. People began to question the rapid adoption of digital systems and the increasing integration of AI into daily life. The scroll's predictions served as a wake-up call, prompting discussions about maintaining human autonomy in an increasingly automated world. As researchers worked around the clock to understand the final prophecy, they noticed something extraordinary about the scroll's structure. The predictions weren't simply listed chronologically, they formed an intricate pattern that suggested a deeper understanding of historical cycles and human development. The ancient authors appeared to have grasped something fundamental about the nature of time and human progress that modern science was only beginning to comprehend. The tension mounted as the prophesied date drew closer. The world held its breath, waiting to see if the scroll's final prediction would prove as accurate as its others. Dr. Chen and her team worked tirelessly to ensure they had interpreted the ancient text correctly, aware that the eyes of the world were upon them. The manuscript's previous accuracy made it impossible to dismiss this last prophecy, regardless of how improbable it might seem. As the final days approached, the scroll's message seemed clearer than ever. Humanity stood at a crucial crossroads. The ancient text had not just predicted our technological advancement, it had warned of the choices we would face as a species. The integration of digital systems, artificial intelligence, and human society had brought us to a point of no return, a moment of decision that would determine the future course of human civilization. Whether or not the scroll's final prophecy would come to pass, its impact on human understanding was already irreversible. The document had bridged the gap between ancient wisdom and modern knowledge, forcing us to reconsider our place in the grand sweep of history. As the world waited to witness the fulfillment of the final prediction, one thing became certain. The discovery in that Jerusalem cave had forever changed our understanding of prophecy, time, and the connection between past and present. In the silent depths of Qumran's ancient caves, where the Dead Sea Scrolls first emerged to revolutionize biblical scholarship, another discovery was about to shake the foundations of prophetic understanding. Dr. Sarah Chen never expected her routine archaeological survey to unveil a mystery that would bridge 3 millennia of human history. As she carefully extracted the weathered scroll from its earthen tomb, she couldn't have known that its contents would soon intersect with headlines across the globe, drawing together threads of prophecy that had remained hidden for thousands of years. The scroll's discovery sent ripples through the academic community, but it was the peculiar numerical sequence embedded within its text that caught Dr. Chen's attention. Unlike traditional biblical manuscripts, this document contained an intricate mathematical pattern woven through the words of Daniel's prophecy, a pattern that seemed to point directly to astronomical events in our time. As she worked to decode the ancient text in her Jerusalem laboratory, news broke of an unprecedented solar phenomenon that would occur in 2026, precisely matching the first sequence in the scroll's mathematical code. While skeptics dismissed the correlation as mere coincidence, Dr. Chen's research revealed something far more compelling. The scroll contained not just one, but 3 distinct numerical sequences, each corresponding to a specific type of event: celestial, technological, and geopolitical. The probability of all 3 aligning with current events by chance was astronomically low, yet that's exactly what began to unfold. The solar phenomenon was just the beginning, as a groundbreaking quantum computing breakthrough emerged, matching the second sequence with uncanny precision. As global attention turned to these remarkable coincidences, few noticed the subtle shifts occurring in Jerusalem's political landscape. Ancient prophecies from Isaiah spoke of signs in the heavens coinciding with earthly transformations, particularly concerning the Holy City. The scroll's third sequence seemed to predict a specific pattern of diplomatic events that would reshape the region's power structure. When international headlines began reporting unexpected developments in Middle Eastern peace negotiations, Dr. Chen recognized the unmistakable alignment with both the scroll's predictions and Revelation's prophetic narrative. The mathematical precision of these correlations challenged everything scholars thought they knew about biblical prophecy. Traditional interpretations of Daniel's 70 weeks and Revelation's timeframes suddenly gained new clarity when viewed through the lens of this ancient code. The scroll appeared to function as a prophetic Rosetta Stone, providing a mathematical key to understanding how biblical prophecies interact with modern events. Each new correlation strengthened the pattern, drawing together ancient wisdom and contemporary reality in ways that defied conventional explanation. As Dr. Chen delved deeper into the scroll's mysteries, she discovered layers of meaning that connected seemingly unrelated prophecies. The text revealed how Isaiah's celestial signs, Daniel's timeline, and Revelation's symbolic language worked together in a unified prophetic framework. The mathematical sequences showed how these ancient visions weren't just parallel predictions, but interconnected parts of a grand prophetic tapestry. Each prophet had glimpsed a different aspect of the same divine timeline, now being unveiled through the scroll's numerical code. The implications of these discoveries extended far beyond academic circles. As news of the correlations spread, people began recognizing prophetic patterns in current events they'd previously overlooked. The rare solar phenomenon predicted by the scroll wasn't just a scientific curiosity, it matched Isaiah's description of astronomical signs that would precede significant global changes. The technological breakthrough aligned perfectly with Daniel's prophecy about knowledge increasing in the last days. Even the geopolitical shifts concerning Jerusalem reflected precise details found in multiple prophetic texts. Yet amidst the growing excitement, Dr. Chen noticed something troubling. The scroll's sequences hadn't just predicted these events, they suggested an acceleration of prophetic fulfillment unlike anything seen in history. The mathematical patterns indicated that as each prophecy aligned, the pace of fulfillment would increase exponentially. This acceleration matched Revelation's description of events intensifying like birth pains near the end times. The scroll appeared to be revealing not just what would happen, but the precise timing and pace of prophetic fulfillment. The technological breakthrough proved particularly significant. The quantum computing advancement mentioned in the scroll's second sequence didn't just match current events. It suggested capabilities that aligned with ancient prophecies about global monitoring and control. As artificial intelligence systems evolved at unprecedented rates, the correlation between these developments and prophetic warnings about worldwide surveillance became impossible to ignore. The scroll's mathematical code showed how technological progress would play a crucial role in fulfilling end times predictions. Jerusalem's changing political landscape added another layer of confirmation. The scroll's third sequence predicted a series of diplomatic developments that would gradually shift the city's status on the world stage. As these events began unfolding exactly as described, biblical scholars recognized patterns that paralleled prophecies from Zechariah about Jerusalem becoming a burdensome stone for all nations. The mathematical precision of these political developments suggested divine orchestration rather than random chance. Historical analysis revealed that previous generations had glimpsed portions of these prophetic patterns but lacked the complete picture. The scroll's numerical code demonstrated how modern events would fulfill ancient prophecies in ways that were impossible to fully understand before our time. Technology, global communication, and current geopolitical realities were providing the context needed to comprehend prophetic details that had puzzled scholars for centuries. As Dr. Chen continued her research, she uncovered additional layers of mathematical harmony between various prophetic texts. The scroll showed how numbers mentioned in Daniel connected with time frames in Revelation, creating a unified prophetic timeline that encompassed both ancient and modern events. This mathematical unity suggested divine authorship, as no human could have engineered such precise correlations across thousands of years. The scroll's influence extended beyond traditional prophetic interpretation. Its mathematical sequences provided new insights into how biblical prophecies interact with scientific discoveries. The predicted solar phenomenon, for instance, wasn't just a random astronomical event, it was part of a larger pattern of celestial signs that would mark specific prophetic fulfillments. This connection between scientific observation and prophetic prediction challenged the assumed divide between faith and empirical evidence. Public reaction to these discoveries varied widely. Some dismissed the correlations as elaborate coincidence, while others saw them as concrete evidence of divine foreknowledge. The mathematical precision of the fulfillments, however, became increasingly difficult to explain away. As each predicted event unfolded exactly as the scroll's code had indicated, even skeptics began questioning their assumptions about prophetic possibility. The implications for biblical interpretation were profound. The scroll's mathematical approach to prophecy suggested that end times events wouldn't just happen randomly, but would follow a precise divine schedule. This insight helped explain why certain prophecies seemed to cluster around specific time periods while others spanned centuries. The mathematical patterns revealed an overarching prophetic structure that brought new clarity to seemingly complex predictions. As global events continued aligning with the scroll's sequences, researchers noticed another pattern emerging. The mathematical code wasn't just predicting individual events, it was revealing how different prophetic elements would converge. The solar phenomenon, technological advancement, and Jerusalem's political transformation weren't isolated incidents, but interconnected fulfillments leading toward a culmination of biblical prophecy. The scroll's influence began reshaping prophetic studies worldwide. Its mathematical approach to understanding end times prophecy provided a framework for evaluating current events against biblical predictions. Scholars found that when viewed through this mathematical lens, many modern developments showed clear prophetic significance that had previously gone unnoticed. The code became a valuable tool for discerning genuine prophetic fulfillment from mere coincidence. Dr. Chen's ongoing analysis revealed increasingly complex layers of prophetic correlation. The scroll's mathematical sequences showed how different biblical books complemented each other's predictions, creating a comprehensive picture of end times events. This mathematical harmony extended across various prophetic themes, from global governance to spiritual awakening, suggesting a divine author coordinating multiple human writers across time. As the predicted events continued unfolding, attention turned to the scroll's remaining sequences. If its mathematical patterns proved accurate, humanity was approaching a period of unprecedented prophetic fulfillment. The convergence of celestial signs, technological advancement, and geopolitical transformation suggested that biblical end-times prophecies weren't just future possibilities, but current realities unfolding with mathematical precision. The implications extended beyond religious circles into various academic disciplines. The scroll's mathematical patterns provided new ways to analyze historical events and current developments through a prophetic lens. Its precise correlations between ancient predictions and modern fulfillments challenged conventional understanding of both prophecy and probability, suggesting divine orchestration of human history. As Dr. Chen prepared to publish her complete findings, she realized the scroll's greatest significance wasn't just its predictive accuracy, but its demonstration of prophetic unity. The mathematical patterns showed how various biblical prophecies worked together to reveal God's unfolding plan. This discovery was transforming not just the study of prophecy, but people's understanding of how divine purpose intersects with human history. The story of the Qumran scroll continues unfolding as each new development confirms its mathematical sequences with increasing precision. Its impact extends beyond academic research into the realm of faith and understanding, challenging both believers and skeptics to reconsider their views on prophecy and divine involvement in human affairs. As the world watches these prophetic patterns unfold, the scroll's message becomes clear. The convergence of ancient prophecy with modern events isn't just possible, it's happening with mathematical certainty before our eyes. In the heart of Jerusalem's ancient streets, where history whispers through worn stone walls, an extraordinary discovery was about to shake the foundations of faith and challenge our understanding of time itself. Deep beneath the Temple Mount, in a chamber untouched by human hands for centuries, 3 biblical scholars would stumble upon a discovery that would forever alter their perception of prophecy and reality. Dr. Sarah Cohen, Professor James Mitchell, and Dr. Ahmad al-Rashid had dedicated their lives to understanding biblical prophecies, but nothing could have prepared them for what lay hidden in the depths of Jerusalem's sacred ground. The morning began like any other archaeological expedition, with the team carefully excavating beneath the Temple Mount's ancient foundations. As their tools scraped against the time-worn stone, a hollow sound echoed through the chamber, revealing a hidden compartment sealed for millennia. Inside, they found an intricately carved wooden box, its surface adorned with symbols that seemed to blend ancient Hebrew with modern mathematical equations. Within lay a scroll, but unlike any they had ever encountered. The parchment appeared simultaneously ancient and impossibly new, as if it existed in 2 time periods at once. The ink gleamed with an otherworldly iridescence, and the text was written in a peculiar mixture of ancient Hebrew and modern English. As Dr. Cohen carefully unrolled the scroll, her hands trembling with anticipation, the first lines sent a chill down her spine. The text began with today's date, but despite the carbon dating later confirming the scroll's age at over 2,000 years. The prophecies contained within spoke of events they recognized from their own headlines: global pandemics, technological advancement, and geopolitical alliances that mirrored exactly what was unfolding in their present day. The scholars worked tirelessly to decode the mysterious document, their excitement growing with each revelation. The scroll described a sequence of events leading to what it called the Great Departure, a term that eerily echoed their understanding of the rapture. But it was the specific details that left them speechless. Precise descriptions of modern technologies, social movements, and global conflicts that no ancient scribe could have possibly known. As they delved deeper into their research, strange phenomena began occurring worldwide. Reports flooded in from every continent of unexplained disappearances, not mass vanishings, but singular, seemingly random people vanishing without a trace. The pattern was subtle at first, but unmistakable to those who knew where to look. Each disappearance corresponded to a specific prophecy within the scroll. Then came the trumpets. From the peaks of the Himalayas to the streets of New York City, people reported hearing mysterious trumpet sounds that seemed to emanate from the sky itself. Scientists struggled to explain the phenomenon, while religious leaders pointed to biblical prophecies of the 7 trumpets of Revelation. The scroll had predicted these exact occurrences down to the dates and locations. Dr. Mitchell noticed something even more extraordinary: astronomical alignments occurring exactly as described in the scroll. Ancient constellations were moving into positions that hadn't been seen for millennia, creating patterns that matched biblical descriptions of the end times. The team discovered that these celestial events corresponded to a complex mathematical code woven into the scroll's text, a code that seemed to bridge the gap between ancient prophecy and modern quantum physics. But the most startling revelation came when Dr. al-Rashid decoded a section of the scroll that appeared to be written in his own handwriting. It contained personal details about their discovery that no one else could have known, including conversations the team had held in private. The implications were staggering. Somehow, the scroll hadn't just predicted the future, it had been written by them, or versions of them, and planted in the past. As they grappled with this impossible truth, global events began accelerating. Political tensions escalated in the Middle East, culminating in an unprecedented peace agreement that seemed to fulfill ancient prophecies. Technology advanced at an exponential rate, with artificial intelligence and biotechnology reaching levels that blurred the line between human and machine. Environmental phenomena defied scientific explanation, with the sky displaying signs and wonders that matched biblical descriptions with uncanny accuracy. The scroll's prophecies spoke of a coming choice, a moment when humanity would face a decision between embracing a system that promised peace and prosperity through technological integration and maintaining faith in traditional spiritual beliefs. The team realized they weren't just studying prophecy, they were living it, and their discoveries were playing a crucial role in its fulfillment. As their research gained attention, they found themselves at the center of a global controversy. Religious leaders sought their insight, while skeptics demanded scientific explanations. World governments showed increasing interest in their findings, particularly concerning the scroll's predictions about future technological developments and global conflicts. The pressure mounted as more predictions came true. A series of unprecedented natural disasters occurred exactly as foretold, followed by technological breakthroughs that offered solutions to humanity's greatest challenges. But with each advancement came a price, a subtle shift away from spiritual values toward a purely materialistic worldview. The scroll warned of this progression, describing it as a precursor to what it called the Great Deception. It spoke of a time when humanity would be offered a seemingly perfect solution to its problems, a unified system promising peace and prosperity. But hidden within this promise lay a requirement to reject traditional faith in favor of a new technological spirituality. As these events unfolded, the team began experiencing intense dreams and visions, each one adding another piece to the prophetic puzzle. They discovered that the scroll's message wasn't just about predicting the future, it was about understanding the circular nature of time itself and how prophecy operates beyond linear chronology. The mathematical codes in the scroll revealed something extraordinary. Time itself was approaching a convergence point, a moment when past, present, and future would intersect. This convergence, according to the scroll, would coincide with the moment of rapture, when the faithful would be called home and the world would enter its final tribulation. Their research led them to understand that the prophecies weren't just predictions, but a complex tapestry of interconnected events, each one building upon the last. The scroll showed how every major historical event had been leading to this moment, like tributaries flowing into a mighty river of destiny. As they pieced together the final sections of the scroll, they made a discovery that left them in awe. The document contained detailed instructions for its own creation and placement beneath the Temple Mount. It was a perfect loop. They would eventually be the ones to write the scroll and send it back through time, ensuring its discovery by their past selves. But this revelation came with a heavy responsibility. The scroll spoke of a final choice they would face, whether to complete the loop by writing and sending back the scroll, or to break the cycle and potentially alter the course of prophetic fulfillment. This decision would come at a crucial moment, when the signs of the end times would be unmistakable. The world around them continued to transform. Countries began implementing a unified digital currency system, exactly as the scroll had predicted. A charismatic world leader emerged, proposing solutions to global conflicts that seemed too good to be true. And in the skies above Jerusalem, astronomical phenomena began to appear that defied scientific explanation. As they approached the prophesied moment of decision, the team faced their greatest challenge. The scroll's final pages revealed that their choices would influence not just their own time, but all of history. They had become part of a divine plan that transcended time itself, chosen to be witnesses and participants in the fulfillment of ancient prophecies. The weight of their discovery pressed upon them as they realized that every prediction in the scroll had served a purpose, not just to foretell the future, but to prepare humanity for the choices that lay ahead. The rapture wasn't just an event to be predicted, but a culmination of choices made by countless individuals throughout history. In the end, they understood that the scroll's greatest prophecy wasn't about predicting the future, but about revealing the timeless nature of faith and choice. As strange lights appeared in the skies over Jerusalem, and the world held its breath, they realized that every generation faces its own moment of prophetic fulfillment, its own choice between faith and doubt, between the spiritual and the material. Their discovery had opened a window into the divine perspective, where past, present, and future exist simultaneously, and where prophecy serves not just to predict, but to prepare and guide. As the final signs began to manifest, they understood that their role was not just to interpret prophecy, but to bear witness to its fulfillment, adding their own chapter to the eternal story of faith, choice, and divine purpose. The world stands now at this prophetic crossroads, where ancient wisdom meets modern reality, where faith confronts reason, and where each person must choose their path in the great cosmic drama of redemption and renewal. The scroll's message echoes through time, reminding us that in every age, the signs are there for those with eyes to see and hearts to understand. In the shadows of Jerusalem's ancient stones, a story begins to unfold that will challenge everything we thought we knew about prophecy, science, and the intricate tapestry of divine planning. The ground trembles beneath the Western Wall, not from the usual seismic activity that has become increasingly common, but from something far more profound, the weight of history itself being unveiled. Dr. Sarah Cohen never expected to find herself at the center of what could be the most significant archaeological discovery of the century. The renowned seismologist had spent years studying the unprecedented wave of earthquakes that had been rippling across the globe, but nothing in her scientific background had prepared her for what lay hidden beneath Jerusalem's most sacred site. As her team carefully extracted an ancient Hebrew scroll from its millennia-old resting place, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just another archaeological find. Meanwhile, across the city, Ambassador Karim al-Rashid sat in his office, watching news reports of yet another devastating earthquake, this time in the Pacific Ring of Fire. The seasoned diplomat had witnessed the world's political landscape shift dramatically over the past months, as former enemies forged unlikely alliances and ancient rivalries dissolved in the face of global crisis. His phone buzzed with another urgent message. The peace treaty he'd been negotiating between nations that had been at war for generations was finally ready for signing. In New York, young journalist Maya Thompson stared at her computer screen, trying to make sense of the patterns emerging from her research. The natural disasters she'd been documenting weren't just increasing in frequency, they were following a specific sequence, one that seemed hauntingly familiar to scholars of ancient texts. Her investigation had started as a simple assignment covering environmental changes, but it had led her down a rabbit hole of prophetic writings and astronomical phenomena that defied conventional explanation. As Dr. Cohen's team began the painstaking process of translating the scroll, the first lines sent shivers through the academic community. The ancient text spoke of a time when the earth would shake with increasing fury, when the stars themselves would seem to shift in their courses, and when nations would unite in ways never before seen. It described with chilling precision events that matched current headlines with an accuracy that couldn't be dismissed as coincidence. The scroll's message wasn't just about natural disasters, it spoke of a cosmic choreography, a divine timeline hidden in plain sight throughout history. As Sarah worked to decode its contents, she found herself reaching out to Maya Thompson, whose articles on global phenomena had caught her attention. The journalist's research revealed patterns that aligned perfectly with the scroll's predictions, creating a picture that was both fascinating and terrifying. Ambassador al-Rashid, unaware of the scroll's discovery, was witnessing another aspect of the prophecies unfold in the diplomatic realm. The peace treaty he was brokering wasn't just about ending conflicts, it was establishing a new world order, one that the ancient text had described in detail thousands of years ago. Nations that had been historical enemies were now forming alliances that would have been unthinkable just months before. As the three individuals pursued their separate investigations, the heavens themselves seemed to confirm the scroll's warnings. A series of unusual astronomical events began to occur. Configurations of celestial bodies that matched biblical descriptions of end-time signs. Scientists struggled to explain the sudden appearance of previously unknown celestial phenomena, while religious scholars pored over ancient texts with renewed interest. The scroll spoke of specific signs that would appear in sequence, first the earthquakes, then the political realignments, followed by celestial signs that would be impossible to ignore. Each prediction was accompanied by precise details that corresponded to current events with uncanny accuracy. The text wasn't just predicting these events, it was revealing a divine blueprint that had been set in motion long ago. Maya's research led her to connect with religious scholars who had been studying similar patterns. They shared with her ancient documents from different cultures that all seemed to point to this specific moment in history. The similarities were too precise to be coincidental, and as she dug deeper, she began to understand that she was documenting something far more significant than a series of natural disasters. Dr. Cohen's scientific mindset was being challenged daily as she worked with the scroll. The text contained information about geological processes that wouldn't be discovered by science for thousands of years after it was written. It described tectonic movements and seismic patterns that she had only recently documented in her own research. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just prophecy. It was evidence of divine knowledge of Earth's scientific principles. As Ambassador al-Rashid finalized the details of the peace treaty, he began to notice strange parallels between the agreement's structure and ancient prophetic texts he had studied in his youth. The treaty wasn't just creating peace, it was establishing a new global framework that matched biblical descriptions of the end times with stunning precision. The realization left him questioning everything he thought he knew about international diplomacy. The paths of these three individuals began to converge as the scroll's predictions continued to unfold. Maya's journalism led her to Jerusalem to interview Dr. Cohen about the scientific implications of the increasing earthquakes. During their meeting, they discovered the connections between the scroll's predictions and the diplomatic developments Ambassador al-Rashid was overseeing. The scroll's message became clearer as more of it was translated. It wasn't just predicting these events, it was revealing how they all connected to form a larger picture. The earthquakes weren't random natural disasters. They were following a specific pattern that corresponded to the prophesied signs of the end times. The political alliances weren't just diplomatic achievements, they were fulfilling ancient prophecies about the alignment of nations in the last days. As the three collaborated to understand the full implications of their discoveries, more signs began to appear. Astronomical observatories reported unprecedented celestial phenomena that matched biblical descriptions of end-time signs. Political analysts noted that global alliances were forming exactly as ancient prophecies had foretold. Seismologists recorded earthquake patterns that couldn't be explained by conventional geological models. The scroll revealed that these events weren't just coincidentally occurring together, they were part of an intricately designed plan that had been set in motion thousands of years ago. Each event, from the smallest tremor to the largest political shift, was a carefully placed piece in a divine puzzle that was now becoming visible to those who knew where to look. Dr. Cohen's scientific background helped her understand the geological aspects of the prophecies, while Maya's investigative skills unveiled connections that others had missed. Ambassador al-Rashid's diplomatic experience provided insight into how current political developments fit into the prophetic timeline. Together they began to see how every headline, every treaty, and every natural phenomenon was part of a larger story that had been written long ago. The scroll's messages became increasingly specific as more was translated. It spoke of a time when technology would connect the world in unprecedented ways, when knowledge would increase exponentially, and when the very foundations of society would be shaken. Each prediction was accompanied by details that matched current events with stunning accuracy. As their understanding deepened, they realized that the scroll wasn't just predicting the future, it was revealing God's intricate timeline for humanity. The natural disasters, political alignments, and celestial signs were all carefully orchestrated elements of a divine plan that had been hidden in plain sight throughout history. The prophecies weren't just about predicting events. They were about showing humanity that nothing happens by chance. The impact of their discovery spread rapidly through academic and religious circles. Scientists who had dismissed biblical prophecies began to take a closer look at the evidence. Religious scholars found new significance in texts they had studied for years. The world started to realize that current events weren't just random occurrences, they were the fulfillment of prophecies written millennia ago. As more predictions from the scroll came to pass, it became clear that humanity was witnessing something unprecedented. The natural disasters weren't just environmental phenomena, they were signs pointing to a larger truth. The political alliances weren't just diplomatic achievements, they were fulfillment of ancient prophecies. The astronomical events weren't just celestial curiosities, they were divine signals written in the stars themselves. The scroll's final passages spoke of hope amidst the chaos, a promise that these events, though challenging, were part of a greater purpose. It revealed that the increasing intensity of natural disasters and political upheavals wasn't random, but rather a carefully choreographed sequence leading to a predetermined conclusion. As Dr. Cohen, Maya, and Ambassador al-Rashid shared their findings with the world, they realized they had uncovered more than just an ancient text. They had discovered evidence of God's sovereign control over human history. The scroll wasn't just a prediction of the future. It was proof that every event, from the greatest to the smallest, was part of an intricate divine plan that had been set in motion at the beginning of time. Their story became a testament to how science, journalism, and diplomacy could work together to unveil divine truth. The earthquakes continued to shake the earth, nations continued to align in unexpected ways, and the heavens continued to display unprecedented phenomena. But now, thanks to an ancient scroll hidden beneath Jerusalem's walls, the world had a framework for understanding these events as part of God's magnificent timeline, hidden in plain sight for those with eyes to see and hearts to understand. In the depths of ancient scrolls and prophecies, a timeless story unfolds, one that connects our present moment to a divine tapestry woven through millennia. Throughout history, humanity has faced moments that seem to herald the end of all things. Yet time and again, these very challenges have revealed themselves as gateways to extraordinary spiritual awakening. As we stand in 2025, witnessing headlines that echo with uncertainty, we're about to discover how our present circumstances are part of a greater design that has been unfolding since time immemorial. Consider the ancient prophets who spoke of times when the world would seem to teeter on the brink of chaos. Their words, carefully preserved through generations, described seasons of unprecedented change that would shake the foundations of human society. Yet within these same prophecies lay hidden gems of hope, promises of revival, restoration, and renewal that would emerge from the very midst of tribulation. The pattern begins in the earliest pages of recorded history. When Noah faced a world descending into darkness, what appeared to be an ending became the dawn of a new beginning. The floodwaters that seemed to spell doom actually carried the ark toward humanity's fresh start. This same pattern repeats throughout biblical history. Joseph's imprisonment led to Israel's salvation, the exile preceded restoration, and the crucifixion gave way to resurrection. Moving through time, we see this divine rhythm continuing to pulse through human history. The fall of Rome appeared catastrophic to those who lived through it, yet it opened the door for the spread of Christianity throughout Europe. The Black Death that devastated medieval society gave way to the Renaissance, a period of unprecedented spiritual and cultural awakening. Even the Industrial Revolution, which initially seemed to threaten traditional faith and values, ultimately led to some of the greatest religious revivals in history. Today's headlines mirror ancient prophecies in striking ways. Global tensions, technological revolutions, social upheaval, and environmental concerns all seem to align with prophetic writings. But here's where our story takes an unexpected turn. These parallels aren't pointing toward an ending, but rather toward another great awakening. Just as every previous crisis in human history has served as the catalyst for spiritual renewal, our present challenges are setting the stage for something remarkable. Consider how modern technology, despite its challenges, has made the gospel more accessible than ever before. Social media platforms that some feared would diminish faith have instead become powerful tools for spreading hope and truth to the furthest corners of the earth. The very innovations that seem to threaten traditional belief systems are now facilitating global prayer movements and unprecedented spiritual connections across continents. The prophetic scriptures speak of a time when knowledge would increase and people would run to and fro throughout the earth. While many have interpreted these signs ominously, we're witnessing how they're actually creating opportunities for spiritual awakening on a scale never before possible. Virtual prayer rooms connect believers across time zones, online communities foster spiritual growth in restricted nations, and digital platforms carry ancient truths to new generations in their own language and cultural context. As we examine current events through this lens of divine patterns, something remarkable becomes clear. The very circumstances that appear most challenging are precisely the conditions that have historically preceded spiritual breakthrough. Economic uncertainty? History shows it often drives people to seek eternal values. Social upheaval? It frequently creates openings for radical love and community to flourish. Environmental concerns? They're awakening humanity to our role as stewards of God's creation. The prophecies weren't just warnings, they were roadmaps. They weren't merely predicting trouble, but forecasting how God would work through challenging times to draw people back to himself. Every major prophetic passage in Scripture contains not just cautions about difficult times, but promises of God's faithfulness and ultimate victory. The book of Daniel didn't just predict kingdoms rising and falling, it revealed God's sovereign hand guiding history toward his purposes. The revelation to John isn't merely about tribulation, it's ultimately a book about triumph. Looking at our present moment through this prophetic lens reveals something extraordinary. We're not witnessing the unraveling of God's plan, but rather its meticulous unfolding. The very events that might appear as signs of decay are actually seeds of revival being planted. The shakings that seem to threaten stability are actually clearing the ground for new foundations of faith. Historical records show that times of greatest challenge have consistently preceded times of greatest spiritual advancement. The first century church flourished under persecution. The Protestant Reformation emerged from a time of deep religious corruption. The great missionary movements often arose during periods of social upheaval. Today's challenges aren't exceptions to this pattern, they're continuations of it. Modern testimonies are already beginning to emerge that confirm this ancient pattern. In regions where faith faces the greatest opposition, underground churches are growing exponentially. In societies where materialism reached its peak, young people are increasingly hungry for spiritual reality. In cultures where traditional religious expression has declined, authentic faith communities are flourishing in new and unexpected ways. The prophecies speak of a time when darkness would seem to cover the earth, but they don't stop there. They continue to describe how God's light would shine even more brightly in contrast. We're seeing this fulfilled as global prayer movements gain momentum, as reconciliation initiatives bridge ancient divides, and as new expressions of faith emerge that maintain biblical truth while engaging contemporary culture. Looking closer at current events, we can identify specific ways this pattern is manifesting. The rise of artificial intelligence, rather than diminishing faith, is prompting deeper questions about consciousness, meaning, and the human soul. Environmental challenges are awakening people to the biblical mandate of creation care. Social media's shortcomings are highlighting humanity's deep need for genuine community and authentic relationships. Each of these challenges carries within it the seeds of spiritual renewal. The same technology that seems to isolate people is being used to create new forms of meaningful connection. The questions raised by scientific advancement are leading people to explore spiritual dimensions of reality. The very forces that appear to threaten faith are actually setting the stage for its renewal. This isn't blind optimism, it's pattern recognition based on both biblical prophecy and historical precedent. Throughout Scripture and history, we see God consistently working through circumstances that initially appear threatening to achieve purposes that are ultimately redemptive. The exile led to spiritual renewal. The persecution of the early church led to its expansion. The scientific revolution led to deeper understanding of God's creation. As we look ahead, we can anticipate that current global challenges will similarly serve as catalysts for spiritual awakening. The prophecies suggest that times of shaking would come, but they consistently point toward these shakings as preparation for revival, not harbingers of defeat. They speak of a time when the knowledge of God's glory would cover the earth as the waters cover the sea. This perspective transforms how we view current events. Headlines that might trigger anxiety become signals of anticipation. Challenges that might cause fear become occasions for faith. Changes that might seem threatening become opportunities for witnessing God's faithfulness in new ways. The prophetic patterns reveal that we're not approaching an ending, but rather a new beginning. Just as the darkest hour precedes the dawn, the current challenges are setting the stage for unprecedented spiritual awakening. This isn't just positive thinking, it's the consistent testimony of scripture and history, showing how God repeatedly brings revival out of challenge, renewal out of crisis, and spiritual awakening out of apparent darkness. As we conclude this journey through prophetic patterns, we're left with a compelling reality. God isn't just in control, He's actively working through current events to accomplish His purposes. The very circumstances that might appear as signs of decay are actually seeds of revival being planted. We're not watching a story of decline, but rather witnessing the early stages of another great spiritual awakening. This understanding doesn't dismiss the real challenges we face, but it places them in proper perspective. It reminds us that we're part of a larger story, one that has consistently shown how God uses times of challenge as catalysts for spiritual renewal. As we face the future, we can do so with confidence, knowing that the same God who has faithfully guided history continues to work through all circumstances to accomplish His ultimate purposes. The ancient prophecies and modern headlines aren't telling a story of defeat. They're revealing the early chapters of another great awakening. And as we align ourselves with this understanding, we become not just observers, but participants in one of the most remarkable chapters of God's ongoing work in human history. The best pages of this story aren't in the past, they're still being written, and we're invited to play our part in their unfolding.